I mean, maybe as a presentation is not working, and they say they are looking for another projector. So maybe meanwhile, I just want to shortly present the program we have today. So I think we have the topic is sustainable management and substitution of dangerous substances in production processes. This workshop is, let's say, was created by our campaign partners. They are very supportive of our campaign. So since 10 years, we have a campaign partnership of about 100 campaign partners for each campaign. And some of them are social partners, some of them are multinational enterprises. And these campaign partners support our campaign, and also this topic of substitution is very important, as we said. As was also said this morning, substitution is the best thing you can do, and also one of our campaign partners, Eiffage Constructions from France, they have won an award for substitution process. And we wanted to show in this session how substitution really can work in practice. What does it mean in an enterprise? What does it mean in the supply chain? To discuss about substitution of dangerous substances and how to manage sustainable dangerous substances. Yeah, I'm very sorry that we have this technical problem, that we have no presentations mode at all. We have here, the first presentation is from ZF, so it's an automotive supplier company, Regine Mägerlein, and it's also Ignacio Asanza, Director of Quality, and Konstantin Vikulov, Director of Engineering. They have put in place in the plant in Pamplona a very interesting example. And yeah, I hope that we soon can start with our presentation. Okay. So I'm trying to bridge a little bit the time, but yeah. Okay. To test. Okay. Yeah. We have the wonderful Slido tool. But we cannot project it. But we can work with it. Yeah. Okay. That was the actual introduction we had. But I think I can skip that. So we have translation. We did the Slido. Put your phones on hold, and now we're starting with the first presentation of Regine Mägerlein, Senior Regional Manager, Environment, Health and Safety, ZF Friedrichshafen, and supported by her colleagues Ignacio Asanza and Konstantin Vikulov. And as I mentioned, they have a very interesting example of substitution, and they put a lot of work into this. And I hope everything is working. Now it's working. Excellent. So sorry, excellent. Yeah, you have we have. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for your patience. And again, sorry for the technical problems, but sometimes we are trying to be very fancy. But I'm sorry. Oh, micro. Thank you. Now you can hear me, right? Good. So ready to start. Yeah. What I'm going to do is just very briefly giving you an idea what ZF does and where the project comes from, and then I will straight hand over to Konstantin, who is responsible for product engineering, and he will go through the project. So, oops. No, that was too quick. Here we go. So who is ZF? I mean, ZF is a pretty big company. We have around about 230 locations in 40 countries. So yeah, and our main part is automotive. We are doing automotive parts, and oh, that's confusing. And we have several divisions. So you can see here that a lot is about it's about car components. There are divisions on passive safety systems, on active safety systems. So safety is for us an important theme for our company, and the project was actually developed in the friction materials group. You see that on the screen with that white frame. So the friction materials group is part of the aftermarket divisions, and they are producing brake pads actually, and you will see a little bit of the product later on. So and I said safety is our theme. We have a so-called Vision Zero, which means zero accidents on the road, and also ensuring mobility with zero emissions, and this is what we are striving for as a company. And as any other multinational company, we have obviously a health and safety and environmental policy, and a very important part of this is that we need to work on ensuring the protection, health, and the well-being of our employees. And also, we are promoting the responsible use of resources. And what the project will show, or the project is an example of how we put this in practice in our operations, right? So it's not just putting nice words down, but really we hard work, we do hard work to make this happen, right? And yes, and the next is actually going straight into the project, and I hand over to Konstantin, and I'm trying to figure out the two screens so he sees what is on your screen. Okay.
I switched the microphone. Thank you, Regina, for presentation. So we are producing brake parts, so it's a part of the car, and we go to illustrate what it means on the next picture. So you know this product. We are one of the biggest producer in Europe of this type of brake parts, of this type of product. It's a safety-related part. I would say, without maybe exaggerations, every fifth car in Europe is running with our product. So we have a big, let's say, responsibility, social responsibility for this, for your safety. Product itself, as you see, has a very, let's say, common structure for all type of vehicles. It's a steel plate and a part of friction material. All this transmits the braking power when you push your pedal. There are highest safety standards to develop this product, and this product must fulfill a lot of requirements. You can see that braking may be very tough exercise, temperature, forces, and let's say no one should lose their braking, stopping power on the road. That means that there is a very high requirements for the bonding between the steel plate and this friction material. In reality, simplifying the picture, you can see there is a special thin layer of adhesive, of the glue, which is put on the surface of the steel plate, which guarantees the strength to the product. Traditionally, most of the producers of this type of brake parts use technology which over years was very widely used in the whole world, but last years it was considerably under concern for the products used in this technology. Traditionally, you use organic liquid glue, which you spray on the surface of the steel plate before pressing friction material on that. And this product has organic solvents, has risk of explosion, of fire. The vapors contaminate the working area, and you have a lot of hazardous compounds and wastes. Market-developed alternative products like water-based glues, but they are working good, but only few products are available for the safety product we are talking about, and they are as expensive. In some cases, there are some mechanical attachment like clips, rivets, hooks, or pins, which are used to guarantee the bonding between the parts. But again, this is used for very special applications. Normally, it's very expensive. When we were thinking how to eliminate the contamination and how to improve the product, we had a kind of trilemma. We have to guarantee safety first, so our product remains as good as we know it. We have to fulfill the requirements from the health and safety for the workers and for the environment. And we have to look, of course, on the costs. That was a big part of work done with our colleagues in the company, how to find a good solution. And at the end, we came to an idea that powder coating technology would probably work. Let's say powder coating technology is well known for paints. There are many products on the market which are painted with powder. But in our case, we had to develop a glue which can be applied with this technology. And there is no product on the market today which has the same characteristic that we needed. So we had to do our development with engineers, with our chemists. It took us quite a time because we were testing, I don't know, thousands of pieces to guarantee that bonding is perfect. So we developed our own product, our own compound to make this powder. We first worked with the external supplier to produce it. We developed our application line, how to spread this powder on the surface of the steel plates. Then we started implementation in the production, monitoring always the quality. And last year we finished with the big investment in the company to build our own in-house production line for the glue, for the powder glue. What has changed? Clearly, in the past, the solvent preparation was very dirty. Let's say very unpleasant process. You add a solvent, stir, you produce black, sticky substance, which was very difficult to manage. And we switched to absolutely solvent-free process, which is closed, completely isolated, so person working on the line doesn't have a contact with the powder. We changed the steel preparation process, coming from a drum sandblasting to an inline process on the belt that reduced 5 decibel of noise, which means more than twice the noise level in the working area. We stopped spraying liquid adhesive, which means no solvent anymore. At the end, when we checked the implementation of this process on our volume of production of millions of brake parts, we can say that we solved, eliminated 200 tons of adhesive, 70% of which was organic solvent. We improved the process because in the past, 90% of this solvent was lost over spray, waste, and other byproducts. Now we have powder, which is recycled. Today, it's 60% of the powder is reused, and we are working to achieve higher rate. So we reduce considerably impact of residuals, solvents, or solid residuals to the ambient. All of these reduced 150 tons of organic solvent. We are not using organic solvent in the factories. It's very important for the workers that now cleaning operation is much simpler. You just need a vacuum cleaner. In the past, you need a special acetone. You had to work, stop the line, clean it. It took a lot of hours of work. It was very unpleasant. At the end, we can say that we introduced the technology. As far as I know, we are probably the only one who is using it today in the industry of friction materials. We eliminated tons of solvents and tons of hazardous waste. We reduced noise on the line. We improved the maintenance and cleaning, and of course increased productivity, because the line is working more than in the past. And it was also a good result for us. We reduced the costs. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think a very impressive example of substitution process, and you listed many advantages. Yeah, are there some questions from the audience? Yeah, Hannu?
I'm Hannu Stolhammer from the Finnish government, and thank you very much for nice case. If we think about the slogan "OSHA is good for business," have you make any follow-up concerning euros? How much have you saved, or how much have you saved in exposure for workers in euros? So that you make any calculations in that sense, because it's very trend now. If we think about economy of well-being, as we have like our council paper, and it's just accepted. This is really a business question in that sense.
Yes, as I told you that at the end we saved costs. I cannot tell you exactly the figures, but I think it's 6 digits or more.
Yeah, I have something in my head that the EHS responsible from the group presented once, and it is 6 digits. So we were talking between 300 to 500,000 euros over the years. So it's really big saving.
So it's really a good, business case. Thank you. And Natalie, with another question?
Yes, thank you. Natalie, that's one from SAP. I have 2 questions. One is already the same question, because there were obviously development costs as well. So how is the saving year by year, one of the things? And the other question was, I mean, obviously you have developed a product that works, and that would work for other companies as well. Are you selling it also to the market?
Okay.
Because that would be the multiplying effect, right? To make this work.
Yeah, normally, you know, in the industry, when you're talking about investments, you calculate always what will be the return. In this case, from one side, we were interested to get fast return from what we invested in this we invested more than 1 million euros in the whole company to build these lines. So we were interested in the fast return of this money, but on the other side there was some intangible value in that, which was, it's difficult for me to say what is more important, how fast we return the money, or how good is the benefit for the workers, for the whole company. So for us, we achieved both things, and I think that the company is quite satisfied. Last year, we got
The Excellence Award.
Yeah, award for this company from ZF in Friedrichshafen.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, and the German Umweltpreis as well. The project.
The German Environment
Yeah.
Award. Yeah.
The second question is more delicate, because we are working surrounded by competition. And as I told you, in my opinion, no one is using this product today. There are companies in Japan or somewhere else in the world who are trying to develop similar technology, but we cannot share this information, and we don't sell this.
Okay, there were some other questions.
I have a question. I'm brother from Switzerland. I have another question about quality. Because as long as you have liquid fluid, there's And is the quality the same?
The polymer is a special polymer that has, I don't know, well, I'm a chemist, so for me it's easy to explain. The polymer at the room temperature, it's solid. It's like a powder, fine powder. But you heat it a little bit up, it softens and creates the layer on the plate. There is no air inside, because it's like very easy example. You put sugar on top of the crema catalana, no? And flame it, and it creates the layer. So similar process is happening here. We applying the heat, the powder creates the layer on top of the steel plate.
It's melting.
We can say it's melting. It's not the right term, but it's melting. And then come back to room temperature, and you can touch with your fingers. You don't feel it. It's like a glue. It's not sticky. It's a paint. But when you apply in the second process, more heat and pressure, then it reacts and bonds the material to the steel plate.
Okay, another question, Olivier Salvi?
It was the same question.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay.
1 million was
More than 1 million.
Okay. Was there another question, I think? Yeah? 2 other questions, and then maybe we look off if we have questions from Slido.
Okay, I just had a question. What do you think was the main impulse that you actually started reviewing this? The savings afterwards, or the some regulation that pushed you to try to think how to replace the solvent, or what were all these impulses?
The guilty was this beautiful lady, which I have on the right. She was pushing us to improve.
Jean-Michel?
Don't trip. How was it valued by the workers? And how did you involve the workers in this process?
In the evaluation of the results, we had some, of course, opinions from the workers on the floor, and let's say I would say that we have no critical opinion of them. I think they appreciate a lot the simplification of maintenance and cleaning. It was absolutely clear. I would say even in the past, the lines were organized in a safe way, so respecting all the rules and regulations that we have in Spain. But now the biggest, I think, appreciation was coming from maintenance.
They are the most exposed.
Okay, thank you very much. I think due to the technical problems, we have to hurry up a little bit. I checked with Elisabetta. We have no other questions from Slido. I think we are a smaller group, so I think we can handle also with a traditional way of question and answers. Thank you very much again. And now we are turning to our next presentation, another example from the automotive industry. And now I would like to ask Fernando Lopez and Hugh Lecroix on stage from Delphi and from Peugeot.
Fernando, te dejo
So-
el ordenador. No.
So Fernando.
Well, I don't think our presentation will have crema catalana. Very nice.
Fernando, I have the presentation. What we've done is, yes, you
Oop.
take this
Okay.
one, and you need somebody
Technician.
who is moving this one, and you can look at this one, okay? This
okay.
is what we did. He was moving this slides.
This
and
doesn't
you,
work.
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
and
it's not-
somebody is moving this slide, because you get confused if you work with two.
Sorry, can I have some help, please?
But I have some animations.
Doesn't work.
I'd rather be-
Or should I help you?
Can I be, because I have some animations in the presentation.
This is your original presentation.
The one on the screen.
Whatever you want to.
Where is the one on the screen?
This is the one. This is the one.
This is the one
But
on
you
the
can
screen.
use this one. Okay?
Okay.
Just as a plan B for you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll stay here. This is the one showing on the screen, right? Okay, so hi, my name is Fernando Lopes and I'm from Delphi Technologies. It's also an automotive supplier parts like ZF. I don't know, so if you like ZF, I mean, if you are driving a car, you'll have ZF components inside, or Delphi Technologies ignitions, for example, in your engines. So we are supplying different parts, but we are on the same business. Then with me, we have Hug, and Hug is from PSA. They do these lovely cars, right?
Right. So I'm Hugues Leloy, eating health at Group PSA, better known through the brands Peugeot, Citroën, DS, and so on.
Okay, very good. And, oh, sorry, and I didn't say, so in Delphi Technologies, I'm responsible for sustainability, environment, and health and safety globally for the group. Okay. So what we had here for...
Entonces, lo que tenemos aquí para todos, en lo que se refiere a la gestión.
An automotive industry example that we would like to share with you, and that eventually could also inspire you in your different industries or different lines of work to get it done. Now, okay, yes, we have regulations. We have the products that we do. We mostly want to focus on this tool called International Material Data System. And then, of course, we also have some chemicals approvals and management processes and the workplace health and safety. But we will be mostly focusing on this International Material Data System that we would like to show you. But let's start by the process as a whole, although we will not be focusing in these topics. But if we go to regulations and product, what would you mention about it? What can you mention a little bit about it?
So as you may know, the automotive industry is under strict regulations. What we want to highlight is the complexity of the regulation, the complexity of the processes with manufacturing processes inside the car maker, but also inside all the suppliers. And we can find products that are incorporated in the processes, but that are also produced through the processes by the car maker, and in each step of the building process, and in each supplier. I show Fernando because it is an example of a car maker and a supplier, and we want to highlight the fact that we have to work together. So we have the supplier, we have the manufacturing process, and we have at the end the expectation of the consumers, but also the expectation of the regulation. And you know that through the REACH regulation, we have to be able to say what will be in a used car at the end of the life of its car. So it has to be prepared at the beginning of the working process. And so, okay, yeah. Sorry, we don't see exactly the same thing. So we have some challenges. The first one is to manage the substances, and not only in the workplaces, but if we want to have it included in our processes, which are key in the internal relationship between producers and engineers. And between suppliers and ourselves, we have to make clear what are the products and substances used, and to have an exhaustive list of them. And that is the first challenge. As we have a lot of expectation and a lot of regulation, we have to be sure that those targets, I mean the target of no dangerous substance in our work process, is not forgotten after all those other expectations. And the third point is to be sure not to have to substitute. It's better not to include any dangerous substance in our processes. So all those steps need a lot of preparation at the early phases of work and of the project of any new car or any new part of a new car.
Good. So to deal with all this complexity I mean, again, the complexity of the regulations, the complexity of the output of, and we came up with this analogy, although the image is not ours, but this analogy of the tree, okay? Because when you buy a car and you have to think about the emissions, you have to think about the end-of-life vehicle when the car goes, I don't know, in the end of life, how much percentage is recyclable and whatever. So there's a lot of complexity going in. Chemical products and the chemical products that are used in production is one element of that. Now, what happened is that, and now we go into this international material data system. What happened is that, and it was back in 2000, and initially it was a joint development of Audi, BMW, so some car manufacturers, and DXC is actually used to be EDS, and EDS back then, so it's not the CP, sorry, but was the IT, if I remember well, was the IT company from General Motors. Okay, so it was already within the automotive industry that this material safety data system started to be developed, and right now it's a global standard that is used by the global OEMs. By the way, for those of you who are not familiar, OEM is original equipment manufacturer. So PSA is an OEM, so it has a brand directly to the consumer. Okay, and then in this system, old materials, and when I mean all, I don't mean just the forbidden or the substances of concern or whatever. All materials that get into a car, you just mentioned around 30,000 small pieces that go from the small screw and whatever that goes into a car. Everything gets into this system. The weight, the components, the chemicals. Okay, everything goes into this system. And because it is an IT tool, as we will see, it's not artificial intelligence. Yes, it doesn't make decisions on itself, so it's very static, but it has within all the requirements. So the requirements are the minimum framework, and then it's very easy automatically to raise red flags whenever there is some kind of substance or some kind of concentration or whatever it is. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have here okay, I mean, we're not doing it now, but you can access and try to navigate a little bit for whatever is public. Okay, of course, only if you are a supplier, you have a password and a username, and you can go into a specific project. And the way actually, I mean, if you put this on a simplified flow, so an OEM new product, again, original equipment manufacturer new product would be you coming up with a new idea for another nice car, right? And then there's a lot of what we call the tier one. Tier, it's not an acronym, tier is like a layer. So a first layer of a first supplier would be us, right, Constantine? So it would be the the ZFs and the Delphis of this world. There are plenty, right? So we would be the tier ones. And then we receive, so there will be a new Citroën, right? I get an order for a quote, for a price, and I need to start working how would I make, I don't know, imagine this is an ignition. How would I make this ignition? I would need to determine my own suppliers, what gets into the ignition, some solvents, some whatever, solder, I don't know, okay? So I would need to start looking for my own, what are the materials and my own suppliers. Whoops. I don't need to go that far to look for a supplier, okay? So the tier 2 suppliers would be the supplier supplying to myself. And if I'm in tier 2, you have tier 3, tier 4, tier 5s, right? And I know we are speaking about chemicals, but I'd like to give you this broader idea that we can also be speaking about, for example, the conflict of materials, of minerals, sorry. And so that I don't get minerals or stuff, for example, from countries that are in war. Right? So there's a lot of stuff, but chemicals and the management of chemicals is an extra, a very good benefit that we take from this. So at this moment in time, we are contacting our tier 2 suppliers and defining the materials. So far, we are just exchanging phone calls, emails, and meetings. Okay? Then, after these phone calls, meetings, and so forth, I think from what I was told, I'm not an expert, sorry, but this is like 6 months to 1 year, okay? So from the first brilliant idea to defining all of these and being validated, it goes between 6 months to 1 year.
And an important point is that it's done through engineers, and we are really part of this process because we elaborated a prescription before, and it's used by specialists, but we are really part of the process of quote and return and feedback.
Yep, good. And then, well, after then these 6 months to 1 year validation, meetings, phones, and yes, it's those two guys, I'm sorry, been pointing at you, but it's not us, it's not the safety or health and safety guys, it's exactly the engineering directors and the quality directors that have also to validate these and are directly working on this project. But when this gets done, then yes, we go to this data system, not we, again, it's not me and it's not you, it's those guys and their teams that manually actually do the input of all the substances, all the products, and everything that gets into that, all those 30,000 pieces into this material data system. And see, here is the tier 1 and the tier 2s and whatever that's submitted. It's not just me or ZF that we are the tier 1, it's actually everybody has access to that system. So if I define, Marianne, if I define you as my tier 2 supplier, you yourself, whatever piece and chemical substance and whatever that you are using, or you are coating or some paint or whatever, you do that input there, not me. If you have a tier 3 or tier 4 over there, he also has access. So all the supply chain, actually, there's a flow of the supply chain of who is building your car. So when you buy a car, I mean, you don't get that when you buy a car, but imagine you get a manual from when you buy a car and you see everybody that was involved doing that car, all the companies, all the pieces, all the weight, all the chemicals, okay? And then, yeah, so it's on an IT system. Then there's a final validation by the OEMs, and then, as I was told, this will be around 5 years if it is a new model, right? And then you would have a car on the road. Okay. Now, this is just a print screen. I am not the expert to explain what this is, but I just went online and took a few print screens of what this material data system looks like. So it would go by part number. So it's not user friendly. So it's not made for us to understand, right? But you go by part number, the concentrations. I think these substances are very high concern. This Gattles is what I knew what this is. I think I have this on the others. I don't remember. Is the global automotive declarable substances. So all to say that all the REACH, whatever standards out there are technically inside the computer, so there is no person deciding if there is a, okay? And if something comes up, there is a red light. And then early stage, then yes, we can decide to substitute or replace or work with the supplier for another product. So all in all, it is a computer-based system, so there's no human error here, and all the regulatory lists are inside. For example, ELV is the end-of-life vehicle directive that you was just mentioning. So he himself or his company has to, whenever they build a car, there is a directive. So how much percentage of the car is going to be recyclable or contains dangerous products or whatever. So all of that is here. So we can trace all the substances back to, I have this hazardous substance in not in a braking pad from ZF because okay. What more? It's all the substances are there, not just the forbidden or so. It's everything, and it's here. I would just highlight to say that it's a contractual requirement. So if you're going to be a supplier to the automotive industry, so you have that you go and you declare everything that you are using and how you are using, the quantities, the amount, where they come from which country they come from, okay? And that's it. So for the material safety data sheet. And then last but not least, of course, that this was done, I don't know, in a technique so far, this was done in between, I don't know, in PSA somewhere in
engineering department somewhere, and from Delphi could be, I don't know, the technical center in Luxembourg or in China or whomever. But right now it arrives in Germany for a manufacturing site, right? Or it arrived in Spain for a manufacturing site. So everything that was said so far doesn't replace the fact, of course, and then in terms of on a daily basis, when the product arrives in a plant, still has to go through the usual chemical approvals and material safety data sheets involving the workers, training. So I mean, we're not covering that part, right? But that starts now, right? It starts now, all those operational elements of managing the chemicals. So, as a conclusion, we wanted to highlight the fact that substituting or acting on dangerous substances in our sector, automotive industry, is a question of network work. And we have to do that together, because if, as a car maker, we want to erase, to substitute or to avoid a component, we cannot do that alone. We have to prepare that years in advance in our project. And this initiative has been an initiative of some of the automakers, and during the years, the others came with this initiative, and at the end we have a comprehensive system that permits to be sure of the substances we have in each car now through Europe. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. I think it was a very interesting insight now in the supply chain, and I think it's an excellent example of our campaign partners and how we work together and how we can also show this exchange of good practices. I think this influence of the supply chain is also one topic we want to follow up in our project on supporting compliance, and therefore it's very interesting for us how also the suppliers or other companies in the third or fourth tier, maybe also smaller companies, how they are influenced by that. Do you have any questions directly? Hannu again.
What might be your vision in the future for automotive industry, when we know that these big companies are buying each other? What your vision for the future? It was very interesting to see these questions which you raised up.
Well, technically speaking, in terms of chemicals, and it's very easy. I mean, you can just buy each other. That information is always available there, what goes inside the car, and the components and the chemicals are already there. So it's completely to the system itself. A brake will always be that brake, right? Or an ignition will always be that ignition, no matter who's the brand or whatever, right? So there will not be, for this particular case, there will not be any impact, honestly. And then another thing that I didn't mention during our presentation, and I can mention now, it's very interesting, is that myself or my team as health and safety and industrial hygiene, the doctors, we don't get involved in this material safety data sheet. Is the engineers, is the quality team. They when they made the input in all the tiers, when they made the input of the chemicals that goes there or the materials that go there, they put there the material safety data sheet. They don't call the safety guys to do it. It's very interesting.
Towards or on the road for clean production.
Sorry?
You are going now to the clean production, in a way. I mean that there might be the facts of competitiveness which are coming from the production side. In that sense.
It's getting better every.
Somehow also the question of to put much more power on human capital.
Today, it's an expectation of the customer to have clean cars without any emission and done through a process that respects people. So that is a trend, and we are on the way. If you are referring to recent information about car competitors, it won't change the way chemical risks are handled in our factories. Because the trend is to have healthier workplaces and to manage this kind of risk in a better way. So that is a trend, and we are following it, whatever the name of the company will be.
Okay, are there any further questions? I think from Slido also not. Okay, as we had this technical problem in the beginning, I would like to hand over to the next. Thank you very much. So now we have the next presentation. Two ladies working here together. Here's Christina Mattes from Cosanta, from Air Products, and Erika Osterleber from Cosanta. So. Yeah, with this, I hope that is working.
And the presentations are from here, or because I put the presentation here, maybe better here.
Ah, but you have changed it already, you said.
But only here, on this.
On this?
Yeah.
Is not the right? You want to change the
presentation from here? Yeah, because
I thought you had changed it. Oh, okay.
But not on the computer.
Ah.
I put it on the computer.
Okay. Perdona, ella quiere del USB.
I didn't know that it's already. It's yes, this one. No. Can you go back? Parallel session 3. Yeah. And this one. This? Yes.
This have a copyright image.
You just have to click here first. You click here. Can you click?
I can't.
Close it.
No.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, Erika, we can start.
Yes.
Okay, so the floor is yours.
Thank
You
you.
can change with this.
So hi, my name is Erika Ostajljev. I'm from Kusanta. So we support the agency for this campaign. And I invited today one of our clients, Christina from Air Products, to share with you how we have been working together in order to implement a successful management of dangerous substances in the industrial gas industry. Yeah, it moves. So the agenda for today, I would like first to introduce shortly Kusanta and our chemical management solution. And then I'll hand it over to Christina so she can tell you something about Air Products and how they have experienced the implementation process and what were their lessons learned and their, according to them, the success factors. So Kusanta is a chemical management service provider. We support enterprises of all sizes, from SME to multinationals, with the regulatory and broader ethical and sustainability requirements by building a sustainable and a sound management of chemicals in their organizations, but also beyond in the supply chain. Okay, I'll try to stay closer. How we do that? We do that by providing consultancy, training, and our software system called Stoffen Manager. We also see ourselves as a social enterprise, and the reason is that we provide information, solutions, also to majority of the free users, which are a lot of small and medium enterprises. And we decided to support EU-OSHA for this campaign, not only by distributing the messages, but also by giving some free trainings on risk assessment. And the reason is because this topic is directly related to our mission, which is to raise awareness of dangerous substances at workplace and empower owners, operators, to evaluate their own workplaces for hazards and risks, and to focus resources on practical control solutions. So just to refresh the chemical risk assessment process in the nutshell, and this is what we advise usually our clients, what kind of steps to take when they go through this process. And we say it's first good to start with some prioritization and grouping, then use exposure models to do a quantitative risk assessment, and only the situations that are not safe, for them you perform measurements, which can actually lead to substantial cost savings for the company. So there are a lot of different tools there to do a risk assessment, but I would like to explain you a little bit the Stoffen Manager, because we develop this tool. So Stoffen Manager is an online system to first, I think I have to stay very close to the microphone. To first identify a chemical hazard, second to control the exposure at workplace, and last to communicate in a transparent and clear manner to your workforce, but also to managers and to external stakeholders. The system has incorporated a validated risk assessment model, which is validated with more than 7,000 measurements up to date. And it's in the REACH regulation. There are another 4 validated chemical risk assessment tools in REACH Chapter R14, and the others, for those who are not directly involved in REACH, are EMKG, TRI, ART, and MIS. So we also try to guarantee reliability, and we do that via an international scientific advisory board, which is directly affiliated to Stoffen Manager, and they advise us on changes in regulation or new scientific developments. There is extensive management and communication model, and it exists in 10 languages. And we provide technical support to all users, both free users but also paying customers. And last but not least, the long-term sustainability is guaranteed by our freemium business model. I'm often asked what... does it work? Okay, maybe you hear me. It's hard to stay so close. So I'm often asked what this freemium business model means. So what it means that a small percentage of paying users are supporting the large majority of free users. In our case, we have around 400 paying users who are providing the tool for 36,000 users, which are globally located but with concentration in Europe. Who are the users? The free users are majority small and medium enterprises or different companies that test diversity of chemical management tools to see what meets their needs. Companies that starts with using our system and later convert to one of the paying licenses. And most of the paying customers are big, large multinationals like Air Products. What is the difference between the free product and the premium product? So the algorithms and the risk assessment is the same. All users can also develop workplace instruction cards to communicate to their workforce. All the languages are available for both users, and the difference is in the restriction of the number of the risk assessments and products, and also in the management functionalities. And we also, with the paying users, we work together in a collaboration, like we work together with Air Products to help them with the whole implementation process. So just one slide to show you what you can find in the chemical management system Stoffen Manager. The most important part is the risk assessment part, which can be either qualitative assessment, or you can do quantitative assessment in milligram per cubic meter, which you can compare with the limit values, or you can enter measurement data and use measurement data for your risk assessment. So you need some basic information to do it, and then you can estimate effective control measures. And the output, Christina will show you some of the results from the output later. And I would like to hand it over to Christina to speak about their product. No, it's good. She's got the Thanks.
Thank you, Erika. Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah. So I'm Christina Mattis. I'm the industrial hygienist for Europe for Air Products. And I basically am responsible for all the health-based risk assessments within Europe and Africa and for our region. And today we'll be looking at the chemical management side. So who are we? Well, Air Products we're basically in markets in the energy, chemicals, metals, manufacturing, and electronics. I'm not going to spend too much time on these few slides. I'm sure they'll be shared. We want to be the safest, most diverse, and most profitable industrial gas company, providing excellent service to our customers. Where I fit in is this as part of being the safest. So looking at exposure to chemicals in this scenario, you may ask why the chemical side when we mainly sell atmospheric gases. Okay, so yes, they're all in contained like they're generally contained in a vessel, and how we do. So the part that I'm generally interested in is all the other products that we use. So in the maintenance side, development, and to keep our business running, there's a lot of other products to get our end product out. And that's where we have our chemical exposure. So what do we need? Why? Well, we all have to do it. There's a legal requirement. Somewhere along the way, we have to do a risk assessment. We also have external internal audits, particularly in Europe. The Netherlands is very, very audited based. The auditors are regularly on our sites looking at the chemicals. A couple of incidents as well make us have a look at why, how we control the substances. And we also realize that our chemical risk is vast. It's from operations, during normal operations and shutdown, so all the maintenance activities. We have garages on sites because we have trucks that deliver the gas or the liquefied gas, and our custom engineers who go onto customer sites. So we have chemical exposure everywhere, and somehow we have to get a grip on that. What did we try and do? Well, the first thing we realized is we need buy-in from everyone. The operators need to buy into whatever we're going to do, as well as the general management. Without that, it's just not going to work. Whatever process we use, it has to be easily implemented. The guys are already overloaded with all sorts of processes that they have to take, and me telling them to do a chemical risk assessment is just another task that they have to do. It's an expert field. Not everyone has a grip on risk assessment, and then when you try and add in the chemical risk side, it gets even more complicated. The process itself to write the risk assessment also needs to be easy. Without that, the operators are just not going to buy in, and neither is the facility manager, and then it falls back onto health and safety. One thing we did realize is we need a robust process for anyone bringing in a substance onto site. So you want to stop people going down to the little DIY shop, buying anything off the shelf and just randomly bringing it back to site, because with that we have absolutely no idea what's in the product, what we're using it for, how we're using it, and then it gets left and anyone can use it. And the output of that risk assessment needs to have value for the end user. Otherwise, it's just another piece of paper. Without that, you'll find it at the bottom of a stack of sheets of paper, or it's in the bin, or it's covered in muck. So whatever we needed, it needed to add value. We've been trying to do a good process for a long time. Like, I've been in Air Products 10 years now, and I've experienced 2 or 3 different types of chemical risk assessment to try and get this process right. We've tried that the site writes the risk assessment and it's a site responsibility. That didn't go so well. We've tried it that I write the risk assessment. That didn't go so well either. There's one of me for all of Europe. We've got over 50, 60 sites. There's no way I can do it. So what we decided, we started looking externally, and we evaluated a lot of different solutions, and we ended up with Schoffen Manager. How that's worked, why? So the solution had to be for Europe. We have no other option. It had to be local language, which not everyone provides, mostly is English, and then you start with the translation process again. We've got multiple sites. Yes, they all do the same thing. So technically, what I'm trying to achieve should be easy. We all do the same thing, so it's the same task, with the same product, in the same country. We should be able to get there pretty quickly. We've realized it's not as simple as that. The sites may be doing similar tasks, but they've actually got different products. So we were like, okay, so where do we start with that? So we had to find something that helps us get there easily. So what we've done is we've started with the largest site in each country, got them to make a master inventory list, and we've asked the other sites that are in that similar category to look at that master and work out what is the same and what is different. And then, why are you using different substances? Yes, some sites need special oil because they have a special compressor. That's fine. But most of the maintenance chemicals should be able to be the same in at least the same country. Different country, I can get the argument here, we don't have the same supplier, so we have to use a different substance. But if you're within the same country, we should be able to use the same substance. And also, reduce, reduce, reduce. So something that's been sitting in the cupboard for 15, 20 years, get rid of it. Why are we keeping it? Okay, so that's where we started. Once we've then got our master list, the risk assessment can then be copied quite easily from site to site, or keep it as a generic risk assessment for all the sites. It's not accepted in all the countries. Some countries require a site-specific risk assessment. This has resulted in some cost saving. We're still at the very early stages of looking at our lists and getting all our data together, but there is going to be some cost saving, and procurement can get involved to try and get some prices down on some of the substances. We've also decided that we're going to introduce a chemical management plan to make it as difficult as possible to bring random substances onto site. And this is where we have to get everyone's buy-in again from the very top to the very bottom, because without that, people will just again go down to the shop, buy a local product, and then we've lost control again. This is one of the hardest things that we've struggled with, is we get it right in year 1, year 2 we're doing all right, year 3 we've fallen off the bandwagon again. And then you have to start again with a brand new inventory list. So we're trying to stop that also by doing regular audits to make sure that these random things that people are buying is stopped and what we have is under control. The communication from Stoffenmanager is really, really easy and simple to use. The guys like it. One, it's in local language. They can access it really easily. And it can also focus any training and procedures and link it back to the workplace risk assessment really simply. So, what we have is, with Stoffenmanager, we use French, German, Polish, Dutch, English. We use it in Belgium as well. And we've also just helped Cassandra with the Czech. And the Czech is going to be for the work instruction cards only. And we'll hopefully do the same thing for Russia. What we've essentially done now is we've started with a review of the high-risk assessments, and we've got an action plan in place to add additional control measures, air monitoring for specific tasks, but we're looking at the high-risk assessments first. What we didn't realize at the beginning of this was how many CMR products we would have on site. We thought, oh, we're just a little bit of a maintenance, bit of something in maintenance. It's incredible how many CMR products are actually on site. So, for example, in the Rotterdam area, they entered 175 products. Of those, 50 had CMR, were either CMR products or had CMR ingredients in them, which we didn't even realize. So we've got people working with stuff that we should be doing a lot more control over. They've done a really, really good job and actually got rid of 50% of so they had 50, we're now to 24, and they're still working to get that number down. But this has really brought to light how we can eliminate those products if you know you've got them. Yes, we had a data sheet, and yes, we had a risk assessment, or we thought we had a risk assessment, we thought we had a good risk assessment, and we still ended up with 50 CMR products on site. So it's definitely helped us in that way. And also, you then have the buy-in from the end user to say, listen, we're taking this away or we're eliminating it because of X, Y, and Z, and the buy-in has been a lot better from the operators. The operators are now really engaged and starting to look at what is actually in the product. So that's been really interesting. So the steps for implementation, it just keeps going. We're at the very early stages, so we've got an inventory, we've prioritized, and we've got an assessment. That's basically as far as I ask the site to do. I expect the site to do the inventory and collect the data sheets. I expect the site to do a risk assessment. I then can help them with the next phase. I then evaluate the high risk assessments, I help with choosing control measures, and that's the stage where we're up to. We then communicate, and we just got to keep going around as we add new sites, as we buy new companies. We've just got to keep working on that. So we're by no means done and dusted in this. We are starting slowly, we're working through the phase. We've had Stoffenmanager now 3 years. Yep, 3 years, and it's a lot of work, but we're getting there. I hold my hand up. We're not 100%, but I think we're definitely on the way there. So communicating to the workforce, this we found really, really good. How many people have inspectors coming, or you have internal audits and you find drums or containers that don't have labels on them, or you have a little handwritten note that's completely illegible? So this system also gave us an out for that. It actually can produce labels, the correct label, with all the pictograms, with all the words that you need to get you through an audit. So we find this really, really useful. The instruction card, the work instruction cards, so it can be product-based, risk-based, and you have the safety data sheet available literally at a click of a button for anyone for read-only access. So if we make a change in the system, it updates the read-only link as well, so you always have access to the most relevant, up-to-date material. So, what didn't work so well for us? I'll start with the not so good. What really didn't work was asking the local team to write the risk assessments and ask them to do it without a robust tool. That it just fell flat every time I went back to site. It just didn't work. What worked, finding a solution that was in local language, already a lot happier team. It was easy to use. The information can be easily shared between the business groups, so we can share the information between the same packaged gas sites, but we can also share it between the countries. There's oversight from me, from the outside. The risk assessment calculation is actually done by the tool. So we're not asking individuals to make an assumption or to try and evaluate that risk. Because as with a lot of the health risk assessments, it's perception and trying to gauge that. And this is like you're asking for a subject matter expert, like it's a difficult topic, it's not easy. So the tool does that bit for us. And I have oversight over all the sites, over all the products that are entered, and over all the risk assessments. So if there's any problems from Spain or Poland or wherever, log in, I can have a look and try and get some action to get the next steps. Why has it worked? Well, it's multilingual, it's user-friendly, and they keep us honest with the regulations, especially as the regulations change so quickly, like we can barely keep up. And there's also continuous development working with Casanta. I look after the system as overriding industrial hygienist for air products in Europe. I have to have the good understanding, and I have to make the decisions of which products we're going to try and eliminate, and work with the sites to do that. We've set up with the field safety team an approach to engage and train the individuals. So we've got a system that we think works now. And obviously, there's a good partnership, transparency, and trust with Casanta. They provide all our training and support. If I have any problems, I just email them, and they generally are very, very quick to respond. And also, as we said, we're developing the translations into different languages as we need them, so that helps, I think both sides. And that is everything I had for you. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina and Erika. So it was really a practical example how the Stoffenmanager's tool, I think, was originally developed from the Dutch government, and then now it's semi-private, but as you said, most of the users are using it for free, also smaller enterprises, so it's not a commercial activity, and it can be very useful, as we have seen. So are there any specific questions for Erika and Christina? Yeah, Hugh?
What were the main outcomes for end users on the field?
What do you mean?
The main benefits. You said it will work if end users see visible benefits.
Yeah. So one of the big things that they saw was that the risk-based instruction card gave them how they should be using the product. not how we think they're using it. So that it was task orientated, and also it gave them better guidance on the type of PPE they needed, and also if there were any first aid requirements, or like, so there was the information from the data sheet was there, but they didn't have to trawl through 12 pages to get the answer. It's a one-sheet document.
Okay, are there any more? Yeah? Or maybe a microphone? Or? Okay.
Yes, okay, is it working? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations, really a very nice presentation. I like the very practical example. What I like about the business model is indeed the free users are being sponsored in some way by the paying users. I like this very much. It's very sort of solidarity approach towards small enterprises. And maybe a question, Erika, to you for Cassandra. Does it also bring you then new paying customers, let's say from those free customers, that they ultimately will become paying customers? I was just wondering if that works, that model.
Yeah, this is eventually the business model, that it's a sort of funnel where companies start, especially bigger companies, they start as testing and using the free version, and then they switch to one of the paying licenses. So this is a way that we also bring new customers, but there are a majority of companies who we know they will never move through the tunnel, and they can benefit from the free version.
Okay, another question. Do you have a microphone or? Okay. Please give her the microphone. We need it for the translations, excuse me.
Thank you. I think you were saying that it was quite difficult to actually persuade exactly what you were saying, that you go to your local store and buy something. And what were the obstacles in persuading these people? You know, we have been using it for a long time, etc. How were you able to actually overcome that?
So one of the easiest way, or the first thing was, is we looked at what the product actually was. And some of them were probably the most toxic we had on site. I'll call them toxic. So that was the first thing. The second thing, yes, I've been using this for 20 years and nothing's happened to me. I hear that story every day. So there's nothing new, I think, there. So we've kind of taken the approach that, yeah, but things change in the world. Think of asbestos. Okay, we all used it back in the day, and now all of a sudden it's completely banned. So as research happens, as we get more data, things can change. So we've taken that approach, and then you still have the hardcore guys who go, but I've been using this for 20 years, and so it's then just, you're either going to toe the line or you're not. And we've got there. It's not easy by any means. There's a lot of discussions, a lot of hand-holding in some instances, a lot of yes, yes, I'll play nice, and you can maybe have it, but not today. I'll have a look at it, and then the issue does go away eventually. It's a bit of hit and miss, but generally the guys get on board and are happy with the decision. Does that answer? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we go now on to our last presentation or statement of Marian Skapan from the ETI. So no technical problems, no presentation?
No presentation, yes.
Good.
Good afternoon, everybody. This microphone works, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's great. It is a great honor for me to be here this afternoon, but also a great challenge to be the last speaker. It's almost 6 o'clock, I guess, and I hope you are still awake and able to listen to some comments from the workers' side. My name is Marianne Schaapman. I work at the European Trade Union Institute. There it is. Thank you. For the pictures, yeah. And I am a member of the EU-OSHA campaign steering group also. And the reason why I like that so much has been shown this afternoon again. We have seen 3 examples of good practices, and this is all the time when I have a meeting with this campaign steering committee, I go home very happy because I see so many good things happening. But for me, the task to react from the worker side, and I prepared something, but usually I end up improvising. So I will do a combination of both because, well, first of all, a very important statement to make in a workshop on substitution of dangerous substances is that from the worker side, from the trade unions, we are very much in favor, of course, of this process of substituting. Why? Because substitution is the first tier, the first layer in the hierarchy of prevention. Without any dangerous substances, no risks. So that's very clear. My comments are, I think, threefold. First, I am very much interested, if I see these presentations, can we learn something systematically from them? Is there a system behind all the things you do? Second, I am convinced that within this system, workers have a key role. I did not hear so much about this in your presentations. You touched upon it sometimes, but sometimes it's also seen, for example, the question, how do you get your workers on board not to buy in the shops the dangerous substances you want to get rid of? So then workers are seen as creating a problem to overcome. So systematic workers' participation, and my third element is how to spread the word, and not only the word, but how to spread the practices. I am not from a company. I don't need to make profit. I see good practices and I think, please spread them. And of course, there's business cases, there's competition, there is things behind it, but I think that's really, really important. So workers' participation, to start with, why is workers' participation so important? Workers know the processes and workers have to implement the new elements, the new things. And sometimes, as we also have seen the example, the last example, sometimes on the shop floor level, things go completely different than from the theory or than from what is in the risk assessment. The systematic approach, I think, is really important. Where do you get your information from? How is it? How do you know? For example, the first example was about substituting a substance. The question I get when I hear something like that is, wow, how did you get there? I saw a nice slide where there was this figure with a lamp. Bloop. I have this idea. But this idea doesn't come out of nothing. There is a complete system behind it. And it's not because of the lady that has pushed, but it's also because of the lady that has pushed. But she has created a system, I'm sure. So a systematic approach. There also, I think there's an element. No, I want to say first something else about substitution. We are very much in favor of substitution. But there is, from my experience with victims of occupational diseases, I have seen some things happen that are a bit troublesome. And that is the so-called regrettable substitution. I call it regrettable substitution. Ah, I see nodding, that's great. Sometimes some substances, one substance is being substituted by another substance that is as hazardous or dangerous as the one substituted. And that's one thing. Another thing is you can substitute a substance by another substance that has different hazards. For example, you replace a solvent by a powder. What are the risks of the powder? I mean, it might not be carcinogen, or it might not lead to cognitive consequences, but it might have allergic reactions as a consequence. So these kind of things are important. And third, but not least, what if a substance is being replaced by a substance of which the consequences are still unknown? And here I really want to make a plea for the precautionary principle. It's nonsense to substitute a substance by a substance that is of which the risks are not known yet. I want to go back to my main argument, workers' involvement, systematic approach, and the third element is how to spread the word. And there I think is the systematic approach that we can extract from this should be spread to other companies as well. And well, this is really a question also to my campaign partners, so to say, how to do it. Is it something that you want to keep for yourself because of competition arguments, or I don't know what? I heard different arguments for that, or I invested so much money. I need to have the profits also by myself. But I see this from a different level. Let's say I think also governments will see it from this level. How? Because if you spread the word, then to implement the rules on this, it happens in a much better way. So I forgot one thing. Really important is also the element of the Vision Zero. I heard this, I think, in the first presentation. And I want to make a remark on that as well. What is Vision Zero, and what are the consequences of a Vision Zero? Especially when you apply it to a supply chain. What we see and what we get reported from our safety reps is that in a Vision Zero strategy, sometimes accidents are not being reported anymore because we want to hide them. It's not good for our reports. So this is a bit troublesome. So shouldn't we reframe the Vision Zero strategy? It sounds really good. Huh? I mean, it's fantastic to have this goal. No accidents, no occupational diseases anymore. It's really great. But if this leads to perverse consequences of non-reporting, hiding, being afraid of reporting, being afraid of losing your contract, then it's not a good thing. I had many more things, but I think it's 6 o'clock, so I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Marianne. I think we can stay a little bit. I think in theory we have until 6:15 here, and there's still time for discussion. And also, I would like to highlight Regine Mergelein. She was here not only the first presenter, but she also volunteered. She will report back tomorrow, for the plenary. So tomorrow morning there's a opportunity that we will all hear from the other workshops as well, and also our workshop will be represented there by Regine Mergerlein. So if you have some messages also for her, what she would like to present to the plenary. So, but first, I think maybe some questions or some statements regarding regarding Marianne.
I can calm you down when we did the development of the
Do we have a microphone for her?
Any new identified potential glue went through our chemicals approval process. And I think they can both confirm that there were a few that were really rejected after looking at the chemical characteristics and the dangerous characteristics they had. So that's something that needs to be part of the development process, obviously. So, and about Vision Zero, because we displayed this as well. Okay. Yeah, and about Vision Zero, because we displayed this. I mean, if you put Vision Zero somewhere, or as your theme for the company, you definitely need to develop the right culture to go for it. And you need to make sure that, as you say, there's no fear in reporting, but just the opposite. What we do is we engage people reporting things. And we really want them to report risks and near misses and any injuries, so we can make sure we do good investigation and avoid this next time, right? So that was what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I know that if I speak in a company like this, I know I will get these answers from you, and that is really great. I mean, it's just, so my comments are not especially targeted towards you or towards your system, but it's more in general to highlight some risks of, let's say, gratuit action, if you see what I mean, replace.
Yeah, sure. No, I don't feel to be, the need to defend, no, not at all.
Okay. Some other question for Marianne?
I wanted to add something. You mentioned what was the, let's say, the origin or why we did it. Definitely it was, you know, we are living in the changing world. What was okay yesterday now is forbidden. So we, in the automotive industry, we are continuously facing changes in the legislation, which exists in Europe and in other countries as well. And it's a matter of responsibility of a company to monitor these changes, to know what is going to happen tomorrow, and to prevent or make some actions to come when the legislation is changed, to be ready for that. Yeah. So this is what we are doing internally. We have resources for that, luckily, and that helps us a lot to be, let's say, proactive. But coming to our project, the push, or let's say the main reason for that was the legislation. In Spain, we were facing strong pressure from the local governments, where we have our plants, to reduce and avoid solvents. From one side. From the other side, we had internal, let's say, in the former time was TRW, now it's ZF, was pushed to force us to avoid solvents. And that was the forces which drove us in one direction. I cannot say, you know, good ideas, they are coming to some good heads. I could say that was not my idea to introduce the powder coating technology. Let's say Ignacio was before me in the company, working in the company, and he started with other colleagues to try and see if it works or not. Mm-hmm. And when we found that it can work, then we tried to develop it, let's say, to real industrial application. Sometime, you know, the reason to find a solution could be absolutely unpredictable.
Yeah.
In this case, and it's not a secret, when in the past we were discussing how to improve our solvent-based process, how to steer better the solution of the glue which had some solid particles inside, how to avoid segregation, how to get the product better. Someone in the meeting said, why don't we avoid the solvent completely? And why don't we make it solid powder? Mm-hmm. That was an idea, like a brainstorming one day, which left for a while, like, nobody remembered it. But then suddenly, at a certain point, it came back. And we started investing in this idea. And we came to the conclusion that it is possible to make it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yes, thank you. It's really nice to have a view in the kitchen. But I think the fact that you mentioned this brainstorming is already also part of your system. I mean, there must be a culture of your system and of your culture. I mean, otherwise it would not come up like that, I think.
A company investing a lot of time and money into new technologies.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what Marian is heading for, there must be a culture that encourages people to come up with ideas and question status quo, right? Yeah. Otherwise, this would not have been possible. So many aspects. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's true.
Okay. I think Elisabetta, we had one question from Slido. No? That was a Spanish question. I don't know if it was from in the room or from somewhere else. So I think the question was about, so if we are very good, let's say, in managing dangerous substances in Europe or in the industrialized world, are we not just exporting our problems? And that is also, I was very impressed also, Fernando and Duke, by your system now, how you can track the supply chain, and there's a big discussion also in the supply chain of clothing, for example, of clothes, where's our responsibility for the supply chain or of the shops who are selling it and so on. So how do you say that, or how do you see your responsibility there also for the supply chain outside the European Union?
If you don't mind, I can give you also some kind of example. What we've seen in the IMDS database, that's product related, right? So everything that goes into the product is in the database, and we know what's in. But then it comes into processing all this, right? And then that gets might be different from this, because sometimes we do not know how it's being processed, and that's really the bigger challenge than looking at the product. We had recently an example at one of our sites where we received something from an emerging country, component, and people started complaining they had issues. So we started to deeply investigate, and we found out that packaging treatment was done with a substance which is forbidden in Europe. So we requested the supplier to change all the packaging to heat treatment and to eliminate the contaminated packaging. And the other thing is, we are working on this now, the component treatment with an anti-rust substance or agent. And when I looked at the safety data sheet, my hair went up actually. And I said, hang on a second, but what are we using internally for this? So we found that out, and we are now chasing actually the supplier to change this, because I don't really want to know how this substance is being used in that emerging country. And this is our responsibility as company, looking more and more into this, knowing that it's a challenge and it will take time, but at one point in time we have to start looking at those things as well, and adjust our purchasing processes looking at this first thing. When we qualify the suppliers, having somebody look at those things, and when we approve the suppliers, and making sure they have good practices in place for handling chemicals, and they do not send us contaminated stuff, because it also means they use this in their facilities, right? So that's the next step we need to go, really.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is a very good example how you track this. Marianne already said we are after 6 o'clock. Maybe energy levels are going down a little bit. Or do you have further questions regarding this topic to one of our speakers? Yeah?
Yes, I was maybe a question for PSA, because in that presentation it was, I really like this whole IMDS system, as you call it. When you build a new car, you design a new car, all those elements, parts, coatings, agents, whatever that you intend to use are there. We even saw the example of some substances REACH-related or not allowed by REACH regulation or other standards or whatever. What I would be interested is, and maybe you can shed a bit of light on that, is how is the trade-off taking place then? Let's say with HSE experts, or maybe with the workers, or the leading engineers, a trade-off in a sense that how can we replace this product, which has excellent qualities or functionalities, but is dangerous, with a product that is less dangerous and maybe has the same functionalities. Can you give some examples how this process takes place? Because the system is there, but ultimately it goes, of course, everything is about the impact. How does it really work? I mean, do you have examples of where this trade-off took place in a successful way?
We try to look ourselves between that by...
Please use the microphone.
I'm going to say that actually for bringing here, we tried actually to look for a particular specific example between ourselves, and actually we didn't find any such example. What we learned, and I actually learned about it, is that it happens as we speak. It might be happening right now and we don't know about it, right? Because they put all the substances and then if, and again, an IT system, if a red flag comes out, you know, the quality guys and the engineering guys, they start working on them and I don't even know about it.
And the purchasing department also, which is a really important department in this process, because after our prescription not to buy things, this product or this product, they are the guys that makes it real. Yeah. But for the alternatives, the first step is to say, don't buy this. This is the first step. And yes, this is the real first step. And most of the time, it is because of the regulation or the labeling. If we have a CMR, we don't introduce CMRs. And we have the exhaustive list of CMRs, and we are suppressing them one by one. That's the different steps.
So that is a policy design phase.
Yes,
it's really inside the database. And if, for example, if you are the supplier of the supplier and you input a substance with a percentage, immediately there's a red flag through all the channel, and he gets, not him himself, but he gets a red flag for that. And you would not approve that project. I mean, not to say that then, as the example Regine said, that something can still happen, right? But it catches up. It's not, it catches up.
Yes, where it's really clear for every part of the car, it's not so clear for processes and logistics. And I had recently the same kind of problem you explained with anti-rust for packaging, and that's we know that only if there are consequences. If there are no consequences, we won't be aware of it, because we don't have exactly the same process on internal elements and on processes and logistics. Today.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we had very good discussions here, or as one previous speaker said, there we need good chemistry between us, no? We need good collaboration, and I think that was also the spirit of the session. And I think we learned a lot from each other, and we are looking forward to Regine Mergelein tomorrow. She will present the results. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in the Maritime Museum, which is a very nice museum. You can learn a lot also about the history of Bilbao, how it was beginning here with a harbor and so on, and then the maritime history, some very nice technical models of ships and so on. So have a very nice evening. Thank you very much. And,